Stop for a moment and picture this. A mighty figure with a sword blazing like fire, standing guard at the edge of a great battlefield. His presence is both comforting and awe-inspiring, a shield against the encroaching darkness. Across centuries and across continents, humanity has lifted its eyes to the heavens and imagined a protector, someone who stands between us and the chaos of the unseen world. Again and again, one name rises above the rest: Michael. Archangel Michael is not just a figure of religious art or pious legend. He is revered across multiple faith traditions as the warrior, the guardian, the one who leads heaven's armies against evil. But why? What is it about Michael that inspires such devotion and recognition, even among people who do not share the same religion? Michael's story is unique because it transcends boundaries. Jews, Christians, and Muslims all speak of him with respect. His image appears in the Hebrew Scriptures, in the New Testament, in Islamic hadith and Quranic references, and in mystical writings that have shaped the spiritual imagination for centuries. In some traditions, he is the protector of a nation. In others, he is the angel of mercy who sustains creation itself. In yet others, he is the commander who will one day sound the trumpet of final victory. Through every lens, Michael stands as a figure of action, never passive, never silent, but actively involved in the defense of humanity and the defeat of evil. Throughout history, times of crisis have stirred devotion to Michael. When plagues swept through Europe, churches were built and dedicated to him. When wars raged, his name was invoked for protection. In monasteries and homes alike, prayers were whispered to the great Archangel for courage and deliverance. Even today, many people testify to feeling his presence when they are in danger, describing visions of a warrior angel intervening at moments of great need. His appeal is not limited to the religiously devout. Michael has become a symbol of courage and justice, a reminder that no matter how fierce the darkness appears, there is always a greater light fighting on our side. But Michael is not a simple figure. To understand him fully, we have to trace his role across traditions and centuries, seeing how different communities have experienced him. In Judaism, he is the great prince and defender of Israel. In Christianity, he is the dragon slayer who casts Satan out of heaven. In Catholic and Orthodox traditions, he is the guardian of the church and the guide of souls. In Islam, he is a giver of sustenance and a helper of the faithful. In mystical traditions, he is aligned with mercy and spiritual power. The more we look at Michael, the more we see that he is not just one-dimensional. He embodies courage, yes, but also compassion. He wages war, but he also nurtures life. This journey through the role of Michael across faiths is not just an academic exercise. It is an invitation to reflect on what it means to be protected, to be fought for, and to be loved by heaven. Each tradition offers a piece of the puzzle, and when we put them together, we see a portrait of a being who reminds humanity that evil will not have the last word. As we explore these traditions, we are invited to see how Michael's mission continues today, not just in ancient stories, but in the battles we fight in our own lives. The earliest roots of Michael's story are found in the Jewish scriptures, where he is introduced not merely as an angel but as a prince, a spiritual champion assigned to protect the people of Israel. The book of Daniel paints one of the clearest early pictures of Michael's mission. Daniel describes a time of great trouble for the nation, a time when heavenly battles mirrored earthly struggles. In this setting, Michael is described as the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people. This is significant because it reveals Michael's role as a national guardian, a heavenly representative of God's care for his chosen people. Jewish tradition holds that angels often serve as guardians of nations, but Michael is unique in that he is seen as Israel's defender. In the rabbinic writings, he appears repeatedly as an intercessor, pleading Israel's case before God, especially when the nation is suffering. Some midrashic stories tell of Michael presenting Israel's good deeds before the throne of God, acting as an advocate much like a lawyer in a courtroom. Others describe him as a warrior, leading heavenly hosts against spiritual enemies who seek Israel's destruction. One striking theme in Jewish thought is that Michael does not act alone. He is part of a larger divine order, yet he holds a special place of honor. In the Talmud, there is a saying that Michael stands on the right hand of God, symbolizing mercy, while Gabriel stands on the left, symbolizing judgment. This suggests that Michael's primary orientation is one of compassion and defense rather than condemnation. Even in the celestial court, Michael is portrayed as arguing for leniency on behalf of the people. Jewish eschatology also ascribes a dramatic role to Michael. In apocalyptic writings, he is the one who will rise in the end times to deliver the faithful and defeat Israel's enemies. This expectation of Michael's intervention gave hope to Jewish communities facing persecution throughout history. During times of exile or oppression, prayers would often invoke Michael, asking for his protection until the day when God would finally set all things right. The reverence for Michael in Jewish tradition is so strong that some later mystical writings, such as those in Kabbalah, associate him with the divine attribute of chesed, or loving-kindness. This aligns with the image of Michael as a merciful defender rather than a cold or distant warrior. He is a figure of comfort as well as strength, reminding the faithful that even in times of national disaster, God has not abandoned them but has appointed a heavenly champion to stand in their defense. This rich background lays the foundation for how later faith traditions would adopt and adapt Michael's image. Christianity would build on this concept, seeing in Michael the leader of heaven's armies against Satan himself. But before we move into the Christian understanding, it is important to appreciate how Michael first emerged in the Jewish imagination, as the great prince, the advocate, and the guardian whose presence assured a beleaguered people that God had not forgotten them. As Christianity emerged from its Jewish roots, the figure of Michael remained central, but his mission was given an even wider, cosmic dimension. The early Christians saw Michael not only as the guardian of a nation, but as the commander of heaven's armies, the one who stands against the ultimate enemy, Satan. This shift is most clearly seen in the New Testament, where Michael appears in one of the Bible's most dramatic visions, the book of Revelation. There, John describes a great war breaking out in heaven. Michael and his angels fight against the dragon, who is identified as that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. The outcome is decisive. Michael defeats the dragon and casts him and his followers down to the earth. This powerful image became foundational for Christian understanding of spiritual warfare. It revealed that the battle between good and evil is not just played out in human history, but is part of a greater cosmic struggle, and Michael is at the forefront of that fight. For early Christians, this was deeply encouraging. They lived under persecution from Rome, surrounded by forces that sought to crush their faith. The vision of Michael's victory reminded them that no matter how powerful the earthly empires appeared, they were not ultimate. There was a heavenly champion who had already secured victory over the forces of darkness. Michael also appears in a brief but fascinating reference in the letter of Jude, where he is described as contending with the devil over the body of Moses. The text is mysterious, but it reinforces Michael's role as a defender and protector. Even in death, he safeguards what belongs to God. Early church fathers like Augustine, Gregory the Great, and Hippolytus reflected on these passages, teaching that Michael's mission was to lead the faithful into battle against evil, to protect the church, and to announce the final triumph of God's kingdom. Art and liturgy from the first centuries of Christianity began to reflect this growing devotion. In the catacombs of Rome, where persecuted believers gathered to worship in secret, early depictions of Michael show him as a youthful, powerful figure, often with a spear or sword, trampling a serpent or dragon. This iconography mirrored the hope of those believers that just as Michael defeated the dragon in heaven, Christ would soon defeat the powers oppressing them on earth. By the 4th century, as Christianity spread and became more public, devotion to Michael became more formalized. Churches were dedicated to him, particularly in places where people believed he had appeared or performed miracles. One of the most famous sites was at Monte Gargano in Italy, where a sanctuary to Michael was built following a series of reported apparitions. This became a major pilgrimage destination, a sign of how central Michael had become to Christian spirituality. The early Christian vision of Michael was not just about cosmic battles but also about personal faith. Michael came to symbolize the believer's own struggle against sin and temptation. Just as he cast Satan out of heaven, Christians were called to cast evil out of their hearts. This made Michael a model of courage and perseverance, an example of how to resist the devil and stand firm in faith. What is striking about the Christian development of Michael's image is that it blends majesty with intimacy. He is not just a distant warrior fighting some abstract battle. He is near to the faithful, helping them overcome spiritual obstacles in their daily lives. His victory in heaven is meant to empower their victory on earth. This dual focus, cosmic and personal, would become even more pronounced as Christianity grew and developed through the Middle Ages, where Michael would be honored not just as a protector, but as the defender of the church and guide of souls at the hour of death. As we transition into the era of formalized theology and liturgy, we see Michael's role becoming even more structured within Christianity. The church would begin to dedicate feast days to him, write prayers asking for his intercession, and encourage the faithful to call on him in times of danger. These developments laid the groundwork for centuries of devotion that would shape Catholicism, Orthodoxy, and even Protestant thought. As Christianity spread and developed into an organized church, the veneration of Michael became even more profound and structured, especially within Catholic tradition. Michael was no longer just the warrior of revelation or the defender of Moses' body. He became the church's own protector, a heavenly general whose mission was to guard the faithful and to fight back the spiritual forces seeking to destroy them. Catholic theology began to give Michael specific titles: Prince of the Heavenly Host, Defender of the Church, and even Guardian of Paradise. These titles reflected the belief that Michael was uniquely tasked with defending God's people collectively, not just individually. One of the most famous moments that solidified devotion to Michael in Catholicism came in the late 19th century, when Pope Leo XIII reportedly had a terrifying vision of the powers of darkness plotting to destroy the Church. In response, he composed the now famous prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel, which begins, "Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil." This prayer was so significant that it was ordered to be recited after every Mass for decades. To this day, many Catholics still pray it daily, trusting that Michael continues to fight for them. Catholic tradition also sees Michael as a guide of souls, a psychopomp, who escorts the faithful into the presence of God at the moment of death. This is a profoundly comforting image. As a person breathes their last breath, Michael is believed to stand at their side, defending them from any final assault by the enemy and leading them safely into eternal life. This belief gave rise to the custom of praying for Michael's assistance for the dying and of depicting him holding scales, weighing the souls of the departed to present them before God's judgment. This image, far from being fearful, became a source of hope, symbolizing divine justice and mercy working together through Michael's guardianship. Throughout the centuries, shrines and sanctuaries dedicated to Michael sprang up across Europe. Monte Sant'Angelo in Italy became one of the earliest and most important pilgrimage sites after a series of apparitions reported there in the 5th century. Pilgrims would travel long distances to pray for Michael's protection, believing that visiting his shrine brought special graces. Another major center of devotion is Mont Saint-Michel in France, a breathtaking monastery perched on a rocky island. According to tradition, the Archangel appeared there to Saint Aubert, instructing him to build a church in his honor. The monastery became a powerful symbol of divine protection, surviving centuries of war and remaining a place of prayer even today. Catholic liturgy honors Michael on several feast days, the most prominent being September 29th, known as the Feast of Saints Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael, the three archangels mentioned by name in Scripture. For centuries, this day was known simply as Michaelmas, a major celebration that marked the change of seasons and reminded Christians that Michael continues to guard the Church against spiritual danger. What is striking about Catholic devotion to Michael is its balance of reverence and intimacy. On the one hand, he is honored as a cosmic commander leading heavenly armies. On the other, he is seen as a personal companion who will guide you safely to God. This duality is why prayers to Michael are so common not only during crises but also in daily devotions. Many Catholics pray to him for protection over their families, their homes, and even their workplaces, asking that he defend us in battle in every sense, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Catholic art and iconography have also played a major role in shaping how the faithful imagine Michael. He is most often depicted as a powerful angel, clad in armor, with a sword or spear in one hand and the defeated dragon beneath his feet. This visual is not just symbolic. It is a declaration of hope. It tells the believer, the evil you fear has already been conquered. The battle you are fighting has already been won. Michael's image is a reminder that we are not defenseless, that heaven's armies are not distant but actively engaged on our behalf. Catholicism's devotion to Michael has been so enduring because it answers a deep human need. The need to know that someone is standing with us when we face danger, temptation, or death itself. It reassures the faithful that the struggles of life are not fought alone. Heaven's greatest warrior fights alongside them. If Catholicism has embraced Michael as the protector of the universal church, the Eastern Orthodox tradition has taken this devotion even deeper, weaving Michael into the very rhythm of its worship and its spiritual imagination. In the Orthodox Church, Michael is not simply one angel among many. He is the Archistrategos, the supreme commander of the heavenly hosts. This title carries a sense of authority and reverence, acknowledging Michael as the one who leads all angels in their mission to guard creation and execute God's will. Orthodox Christianity places tremendous emphasis on the unseen world, angels, saints, and the constant presence of heavenly realities. In this spiritual worldview, Michael is seen not only as a warrior but as an active participant in the life of every believer. Orthodox hymnography praises him as the chief commander of the bodiless hosts, and repeatedly calls upon his help for protection against both visible and invisible enemies. The prayers and liturgical texts make clear that spiritual warfare is not metaphorical but real, and that Michael is leading the charge on behalf of the faithful. One of the most beloved Orthodox feasts is the synaxis of the Archangel Michael and the other bodiless powers, celebrated on November 8th. On this day, the Church gathers to honor not just Michael but all the angelic orders: seraphim, cherubim, thrones, dominions, powers, principalities, and archangels. Yet Michael receives special attention, for he is regarded as the chief among them. The feast is a celebration of heaven's order and harmony, a reminder that believers are not abandoned but are part of a great cosmic family where Michael stands as protector and intercessor. The Orthodox tradition also holds stories of Michael's miraculous interventions. One of the most famous is the miracle at Coni in Phrygia. According to tradition, pagans attempted to destroy a Christian sanctuary dedicated to Michael by diverting a river to flood it. Michael appeared, striking the ground with his staff and causing the waters to disappear into a fissure in the earth, saving the sanctuary and the people who worshipped there. This event is still commemorated annually and remains a powerful symbol of Michael's protection against evil forces seeking to wipe out faith. Orthodox iconography of Michael is rich with symbolism. He is usually depicted wearing military attire, holding a spear or sword, and often carrying an orb with a cross, symbolizing Christ's reign over the world. Unlike some Western depictions that focus on Michael's victory over Satan, Orthodox icons often emphasize his role as guardian and intercessor. He is portrayed not only as a fearsome warrior but as a dignified and calm protector, radiating divine authority rather than aggression. This communicates a key theological point. Michael's power is not his own. It is a reflection of God's glory and justice. Eastern Orthodox spirituality places a strong focus on personal transformation, and devotion to Michael plays a role in this journey. Believers call on him for help in resisting temptation, for deliverance from demonic oppression, and for courage to live faithfully. There is also a strong tradition of invoking Michael at the hour of death, asking him to escort the soul safely past the aerial toll houses, a spiritual metaphor for the trials and accusations faced by the soul on its way to God. Michael's presence assures the faithful that no demonic accusation can prevail if one's life has been entrusted to Christ. What is especially striking in Orthodoxy is the sense that Michael is never distant. Through prayer, icons, and feast days, the faithful are reminded that the Archangel is constantly near, watching over them and guiding them. This nearness is not just symbolic. It is deeply experiential for many believers who testify to sensing Michael's protection in moments of danger or fear. One of the most debated questions among Protestants has been Michael's identity. Some theologians, especially among the early Reformers and later groups like Seventh-day Adventists, have interpreted Michael not as a created angel but as a title for Christ himself. This is not to say that Christ is a mere angel, but rather that he is the ultimate commander of the heavenly hosts, the one who personally leads the battle against Satan. They point to passages like Daniel 12 verse 1, where Michael is described as the great prince who protects your people, and to Revelation 12, where Michael leads the angels in the final war against the dragon. For these interpreters, these texts point to the reality that the Son of God is the true protector of God's people and the champion who secures their victory. Other Protestant traditions stop short of equating Michael with Christ but still see him as a crucial figure in the cosmic battle. In many evangelical circles, Michael is acknowledged as the chief angel who stands guard over the church, a heavenly warrior who fights on behalf of believers. The focus, however, is not on venerating Michael but on being encouraged by the truth that God has provided heavenly help for his children. Sermons often use Michael's battles as metaphors for the believer's spiritual warfare, encouraging Christians to put on the full armor of God, Ephesians 6 verses 10 to 18, and stand firm. Protestant hymnody and preaching have drawn on the imagery of Michael as a source of hope and courage. The great hymn Ye Watchers and Ye Holy Ones, which appears in many Protestant hymnals, includes a verse praising Michael the Archangel and the company of angels who serve God. Even in contexts where angelic devotion is minimal, the presence of Michael in worship materials reflects the enduring recognition of his role in God's plan. Orthodox hymns capture this intimacy and power beautifully. One well-known hymn addresses Michael as bright commander of the heavenly hosts and asks him to deliver us from every sorrow and danger, so that we may glorify the Lord who has glorified you. This prayer reflects the Orthodox understanding that honoring Michael ultimately points believers back to God, whose glory shines through the Archangel's mission. In a world where spiritual battle feels increasingly real, Eastern Orthodoxy offers a vision of Michael that is both cosmic and personal, majestic and close. He is the protector not only of nations and churches, but of every individual believer struggling to stay faithful. His image in the iconostasis, standing beside Christ and the saints, is a reminder that heaven is not far away. It is fighting for us even now. As Christianity moved into the Reformation era, the understanding of angels, and of Michael in particular, underwent significant shifts. The Protestant reformers were deeply concerned about excesses in medieval spirituality, including what they saw as an over-reliance on saints, angels, and rituals. They wanted to bring faith back to the centrality of Christ and Scripture. This meant that in many Protestant traditions, devotion to Michael became less liturgical and more symbolic. But rather than disappearing, Michael's image took on a new power as a picture of Christ's victory over Satan and a reminder of the ultimate triumph of good over evil. The Protestant imagination also frequently connects Michael to the final judgment. Many preachers highlight that Michael's victory over the dragon in Revelation 12 is a preview of the believer's ultimate vindication. In this reading, Michael's triumph is not just about angels and demons. It is about God's people overcoming the accusations of the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. Michael becomes a symbol of perseverance, of holding fast to faith when the world seems dark, knowing that the victory has already been secured through Christ. In contemporary Protestant spirituality, Michael continues to serve as an inspiration in prayer, even if formal prayers to him are rare. Believers will sometimes pray something like, "Lord, send your angels to guard me," trusting that Michael, as the leader of those angels, will respond. Some Christians testify of sensing angelic protection in times of danger, seeing this as evidence that Michael and his army are still active. Another fascinating development is the way Protestant writers have engaged with Michael in popular culture. Christian fiction, movies, and spiritual warfare books often feature Michael as a powerful and heroic figure, a reminder that he still captures the imagination of believers today. In these portrayals, Michael is not a distant figure, but an active warrior standing on the side of God's people, reinforcing the belief that the forces of darkness cannot prevail. Ultimately, Michael's presence in Protestant thought serves as a rallying cry for courage and faith. Whether seen as Christ himself or as the chief angel, Michael represents God's commitment to defend his people. His story reminds Protestants that the battle belongs to the Lord, and that no weapon formed against them will prosper. The emphasis is less on liturgical devotion and more on taking heart that heaven's armies are aligned with those who walk in righteousness. Long before Christianity developed its theology of angels, Michael was already a significant figure in Jewish thought. In Jewish tradition, Michael is often referred to as the guardian angel of Israel, the one who stands before God as the defender of the Jewish people. This is rooted in the book of Daniel, where Michael is called the great prince who protects your people. Jewish commentators throughout history have seen Michael as a heavenly advocate who intercedes for Israel, especially during times of persecution or exile. Rabbinic literature adds rich detail to this portrait. In the Talmud, Michael is sometimes portrayed as the high priest of heaven, offering prayers on behalf of Israel, just as the earthly high priest once offered sacrifices in the temple. This image is deeply comforting for Jewish communities, especially during periods when they faced oppression. The idea that Michael was pleading their cause before the throne of God reminded them that they were not alone. Heaven itself was engaged in their struggles. Michael also appears in Jewish mystical literature, particularly in Kabbalah, where he is associated with the attribute of mercy. This is striking because, in many Christian interpretations, Michael is seen as the warrior angel, fierce and unyielding in battle. Jewish mystics hold these two images together, Michael as both a defender and a compassionate intercessor. This duality underscores his role as a mediator between God and humanity, one who brings both protection and grace. In Islamic tradition, Michael is known as Mka with Mekronel and is one of the four archangels alongside Jibril, Gabriel, Israfil, and Azrael. Mka with Mekronel's role in Islam is primarily one of providing sustenance and overseeing natural forces like rain and crops. He is seen as a gentle and compassionate angel who ensures that life on earth continues to flourish according to God's will. Some Islamic scholars also teach that Mka with Mekronel is involved in guiding believers toward righteousness, helping them resist temptation and stay faithful to God's commands. This picture of Mka with Mekronel is less militaristic than the Christian portrayal of Michael, but no less powerful. In Islam, Mka with Mekronel's care for creation reflects God's mercy, reminding believers that every drop of rain and every harvest is part of divine provision. His role connects the spiritual realm to the physical world, showing that God's concern extends not just to souls, but also to bodies and the earth itself. Despite these different emphases, what unites the Jewish and Islamic traditions is their understanding of Michael/Mka with Mekronel as a figure of divine favor and help. Whether he is defending Israel, interceding for mercy, or providing sustenance, Michael represents the truth that God does not leave humanity to struggle on its own. His presence is a sign that heaven is actively involved in history, guiding, protecting, and sustaining those who are faithful. It is also worth noting that in both Judaism and Islam, angels like Michael are not to be worshipped but revered as servants of God. Their role is to carry out the divine will, not to draw attention to themselves. This is an important point of continuity across the Abrahamic faiths. Michael's power and authority come not from himself but from the one who sends him. In a world that often feels chaotic and unsafe, the vision of Michael as a guardian brings reassurance across these traditions. Jewish communities still include prayers for angelic protection in their liturgies, such as the bedtime Shema, where Michael is invoked along with Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael to watch over the faithful. In Islam, believers are reminded that angels are constantly present, recording deeds and offering protection by God's command. And MK with Makronel is a key part of that heavenly network of care. Michael's appearance across these faith traditions highlights a remarkable continuity: humanity's deep longing for divine protection and guidance. Whether one is reading the Midrash, the Quran, or the Christian scriptures, the message is consistent: God has appointed heavenly beings to assist, to guard, and to guide. And at the forefront of this angelic host stands Michael, steadfast and faithful, embodying God's concern for his creation. While Judaism and Islam hold Michael in high regard, it is within Catholic and Orthodox Christianity that we see some of the richest liturgical devotion to him. In these traditions, Michael is not only remembered as a figure of Scripture, but actively invoked in prayer, celebrated in feast days, and depicted in art as a living reminder of God's power to protect his people. His role is deeply woven into the rhythms of worship, making him a tangible presence in the spiritual imagination of believers. In the Roman Catholic Church, devotion to Saint Michael the Archangel stretches back many centuries. One of the earliest and most famous dedications to him is the sanctuary of Monte Sant'Angelo in Italy, a site of pilgrimage since the 5th century. According to tradition, Michael appeared there multiple times, designating the cave as a place where God would be worshipped and where people could seek divine protection. From that time forward, shrines, chapels, and churches dedicated to Michael began to spread across Europe. The Catholic Church also established the feast of Saints Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael, celebrated annually on September 29th, which was historically known simply as Michaelmas. This feast became an important date in the Christian calendar, not only liturgically but culturally, marking the turning of the seasons and often signaling the beginning of a new academic or financial year in Europe. On this day, special masses are held, prayers for protection are offered, and hymns honoring Michael's victory over Satan are sung. Perhaps one of the most famous prayers in Catholicism is the Prayer to Saint Michael, written by Pope Leo XIII in the late 19th century after he reportedly had a vision of a fierce spiritual battle between the Church and the powers of darkness. The prayer begins, "Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle," and asks Michael to be a protector against the wickedness and snares of the devil. For decades, this prayer was recited after every low mass around the world, and even today, many Catholics include it as part of their personal daily prayer life. In the Eastern Orthodox Church, Michael holds an equally exalted place. He is honored as the chief commander of the heavenly hosts and is frequently invoked in liturgical prayers and hymns. One of the major Orthodox feast days is the Synaxis of the Archangels on November 8th, when the Church commemorates Michael and all the bodiless powers of heaven. Icons of Michael are prominently displayed in Orthodox churches, often showing him with a sword or spear, trampling the devil underfoot, a powerful visual reminder of the cosmic battle between good and evil. Orthodox spirituality also places a strong emphasis on angelic protection in daily life. Believers are encouraged to ask for the intercession of Michael and the other archangels before undertaking journeys, during times of illness, or when facing spiritual temptation. The Orthodox liturgy frequently mentions the innumerable hosts of angels and archangels, inviting worshippers to join their voices with the heavenly choir in praise of God. Art and music have also played a significant role in keeping Michael's image vivid in Catholic and Orthodox devotion. From Renaissance paintings of Michael casting Satan into the abyss, to Byzantine icons that line church walls, Michael is almost always portrayed as victorious, calm, and resolute. These artistic expressions are not just decorative. They are meant to teach and inspire, reminding the faithful that God's protection is real and that the forces of darkness will not prevail. The continued prominence of Michael in these liturgical settings speaks to a profound truth. Christians in these traditions do not see themselves as passive spectators of a distant cosmic drama. They understand that they are participants in a spiritual conflict and that Michael's presence is an assurance that heaven fights alongside them. When believers kneel to pray the St. Michael prayer or stand before his icon in church, they are not merely recalling a historical figure, but actively seeking the aid of one who still leads the heavenly armies on their behalf. In this way, Catholic and Orthodox devotion to Michael brings together the themes we have been tracing: protection, intercession, and the triumph of God's kingdom, and weaves them into the daily life of the Church. The liturgy reminds the faithful that they are not abandoned, that spiritual battles are being fought even when unseen, and that victory is already secure through Christ and his heavenly host. In the modern era, Archangel Michael has not faded into obscurity. If anything, his presence has become even more widespread, finding fresh expression in spirituality, literature, art, and even film. For many, Michael represents the archetype of divine protection and courage, a symbol that resonates far beyond the boundaries of formal religion. In a world that often feels unpredictable and dangerous, the image of a powerful guardian angel standing between good and evil speaks deeply to the human heart. Within contemporary Christian spirituality, Michael continues to be a source of comfort and inspiration. Many believers today actively include prayers to Michael in their personal devotions, especially when they sense spiritual warfare in their lives. Ministries and authors focused on deliverance often speak of Michael as the angelic commander who fights on behalf of believers, and they encourage Christians to call upon God to send Michael and his angels when confronting fear, oppression, or spiritual attack. In charismatic and Pentecostal circles, this emphasis is particularly strong, with testimonies of angelic encounters often including descriptions of a mighty warrior angel who fits Michael's biblical profile. Beyond the church, Michael has become a fixture in broader spiritual movements as well. In the New Age and metaphysical communities, Michael is one of the most frequently invoked archangels. Here he is often seen not just as a figure of protection but as a guide for personal transformation, helping individuals cut away fear, negativity, and spiritual blockages so that they can step into higher levels of consciousness. Many people claim to feel his presence during prayer or meditation, describing sensations of warmth, courage, or light filling the room. Whether one agrees with these interpretations or not, it is clear that Michael's appeal as a helper and protector is universal and enduring. Michael also occupies a prominent place in popular culture. In literature, he often appears as a heroic figure, sometimes literally as an angel, other times as a symbolic character who embodies justice and strength. Fantasy and science fiction writers frequently include him or angelic warriors inspired by him in their narratives, using his image to dramatize the conflict between good and evil. This is seen in novels, graphic novels, and even video games, where Michael is depicted as the ultimate general of heaven's armies, fearless and resolute. Hollywood, too, has not overlooked him. Films and television shows that deal with supernatural themes frequently feature Michael or characters modeled after him. Whether portrayed as a sword-wielding celestial warrior or as a mysterious protector guiding a protagonist, Michael's character consistently embodies themes of justice, courage, and divine order. These portrayals, while sometimes taking creative liberties, keep his story alive in the cultural imagination and introduce him to audiences who might never have read the scriptures that describe him. Interestingly, Michael has also become a symbol for movements and causes that emphasize courage and resistance against evil in the real world. His image appears on badges, artwork, and even tattoos as a statement of faith and resilience. Police and military personnel, in particular, have adopted Michael as a patron figure, seeing him as a heavenly counterpart to their mission of defending others. The famous image of Michael defeating the dragon or Satan has become a powerful metaphor for standing firm in the face of adversity. In psychology and self-help literature, references to Michael often serve as metaphors for inner strength. Writers encourage readers to call on their inner Michael, that is, to summon courage, clarity, and conviction when confronting life's challenges. This use of his image may be symbolic, but it demonstrates just how deeply Michael's story resonates with the human psyche. What is remarkable about Michael's presence in modern spirituality and culture is how adaptable his image is. Whether he is seen as a literal archangel, a metaphor for justice, or an archetype of courage, he continues to inspire action and hope. His story bridges the gap between the visible and invisible, the ancient and the modern, reminding us that the struggle between good and evil is ongoing, and that help is available. Michael's enduring popularity reveals a universal longing. People want to know they are protected, that there is someone fighting for them when life feels overwhelming. This longing drives them to seek out the image of Michael, in prayer, in art, in media, as a reminder that the darkness will not have the final word. Whether in a church, a meditation circle, or a movie theater, Michael's presence signals one thing clearly: the battle is not lost, and victory is still possible. Archangel Michael is more than just a figure in scripture, liturgy, or legend. He has become a living symbol of courage and justice for many people navigating today's challenges. His image stands as a reminder that evil can be resisted, that darkness does not have the final word, and that standing for what is right is always worth the cost. In a world filled with uncertainty, conflict, and moral compromise, Michael represents a call to action, to fight for truth, to defend the vulnerable, and to remain steadfast when pressure tempts us to give up. Many individuals turn to Michael when they feel overwhelmed by fear or injustice. His image, standing tall with sword in hand, trampling the dragon, offers a visual promise that no matter how fierce the battle may seem, victory is possible. People who face personal struggles, whether they are battling illness, financial hardship, or family crises, often draw strength from Michael's story. They imagine him leading them into their own battles, reminding them that they do not fight alone. This sense of unseen companionship has been life-changing for many, giving them courage to take the next step when despair whispers that hope is gone. Michael's symbolism also inspires those who fight literal battles for justice and safety. Law enforcement officers, soldiers, and first responders frequently adopt Michael as their patron figure, seeking his protection as they face danger. Medals, patches, and prayer cards featuring Michael are common among these groups, serving as both a shield of faith and a reminder of higher purpose. For them, Michael embodies the ideal of courage under fire, of fighting not for selfish gain, but to protect others, a reflection of his biblical role as defender of God's people. Communities, too, have rallied around Michael's image in times of crisis. Churches sometimes hold special services invoking Michael's protection over their city or nation, particularly in moments of war, disaster, or social turmoil. This practice harkens back to centuries of tradition, but carries a new urgency today as believers seek comfort and guidance amidst global uncertainty. It is not uncommon to see prayer chains or online gatherings where participants call on God to send Michael and his angels to stand guard over their homes, children, and communities. In a more symbolic sense, Michael challenges modern believers and seekers alike to consider what it means to fight spiritually. His story is not just about an angel in heaven. It is about each person's call to confront the evil within and around them. To invoke Michael is, in many ways, to take a stand, to resist temptation, to speak truth even when unpopular, and to defend what is good. This is why Michael has often been adopted as a figure for movements that promote justice and human dignity. Whether in campaigns against human trafficking, advocacy for the oppressed, or protests against corruption, Michael's image appears as a rallying point, reminding participants that their struggle is part of a greater battle between good and evil. Michael also speaks powerfully to the theme of perseverance. His battle against the dragon in Revelation is not described as quick or easy. It is fierce, requiring courage and steadfastness. This mirrors the experience of anyone who has ever had to keep fighting through seasons of discouragement, delay, or opposition. To meditate on Michael is to be reminded that perseverance is itself an act of faith, and that the final victory is worth every moment of struggle. Even outside of formal religion, Michael's story resonates with people who see themselves as standing on the side of light against darkness. Psychologists and coaches sometimes encourage clients to picture a guardian figure when facing fear or making difficult choices, and Michael often fills that role, whether consciously or not. He becomes a symbol of the inner strength needed to face adversity with courage, integrity, and determination. Ultimately, Michael's presence in modern life is a call not to passivity but to participation. He reminds us that justice does not happen by accident. It requires people who are willing to step into the fray. His sword is not just a weapon but a sign of decisive action, a refusal to let evil go unchallenged. For those who look to him for inspiration, Michael is not simply a distant figure in heaven, but a partner in their own journey toward courage, righteousness, and victory. As we arrive at the conclusion of this journey through the role of Archangel Michael across faith traditions, one truth rises above all others. Michael is more than a historical figure, more than an icon of religious art, and more than a theological idea. He is a living symbol of God's enduring commitment to protect, guide, and strengthen humanity. The same Michael who stood in heaven's courts to defend God's people, who waged war against the dragon, and who was invoked in prayers of saints and mystics is still relevant today, still reminding us that the battle between light and darkness is ongoing, but also already won. Michael's relevance lies in his ability to bridge the gap between heaven and earth, between spiritual mystery and personal experience. When we think of Michael, we are reminded that the struggles we face are not merely physical or emotional but spiritual in nature. Our frustrations, temptations, and moments of fear often have a deeper root than we can see. Michael's very name, "Who is like God?" is a challenge to reorient our hearts toward the divine in times of crisis. When everything feels chaotic, Michael points upward, calling us to trust in the God who is greater than every storm, every enemy, every setback. Throughout history, Michael has appeared at critical moments, sometimes in visions, sometimes in dreams, sometimes in the courage of ordinary people who rise up to do extraordinary things. His presence reminds us that God does not leave his people defenseless. Heaven is not distant or indifferent. It is actively engaged in the affairs of earth. For believers, this is a source of profound comfort. It means that we are never truly alone in our battles. The invisible armies of God, with Michael at the helm, are fighting on our behalf even when we cannot see them. Michael also reminds us of the power of alignment, aligning our choices, words, and actions with the purposes of God. His sword is a symbol not only of defense but of discernment, cutting through deception and revealing what is true. In an age of confusion and moral compromise, we need that kind of clarity. When we invoke Michael, we are, in a sense, asking God to sharpen our vision, to help us distinguish between what leads to life and what leads to destruction. In a personal sense, reflecting on Michael's story challenges us to step into our own roles as warriors for good. We may not wield swords of light, but we are called to stand for justice, to protect the vulnerable, to speak truth, and to live with courage. Michael's example shows us that spiritual battles are not won by fear but by faith. Faith that God is present, faith that the enemy's power is limited, and faith that victory is already assured. Michael's enduring relevance also invites us to pray differently. Instead of approaching prayer as a last resort, we are invited to pray as warriors, with confidence, with persistence, and with expectation. When we ask for Michael's intercession or for God to send his angels, we are stepping into a long tradition of believers who understood that prayer is not passive. It is an act of war. Changes things, shifts atmospheres, and opens the door for heaven to intervene. Finally, Michael's presence points us to hope, not the fragile hope that depends on circumstances, but the unshakable hope that comes from knowing how the story ends. The book of Revelation reminds us that Michael's victory over the dragon is not temporary but final. This is the hope we carry into every struggle, that one day all battles will cease, all enemies will be defeated, and every tear will be wiped away. Until that day, Michael's image stands as a reminder to keep fighting, to keep believing, and to keep moving forward, because heaven is on our side. So when you see Michael's sword raised, picture it as a sign over your own life, a declaration that no matter what you are facing, the battle belongs to the Lord, and victory is nearer than you think. Take courage, lift your head, step boldly into the future God has prepared for you. Michael, the great protector, goes before you,